As a four-year starter in goal for the men's soccer program, Jonathan L. J. Barney could be cited as perhaps the most influential player in the program's return to prominence in the first decade of the 2000s. As a senior captain under first-year head coach Greg DeVito in 2007, Jay backstopped the Warriors to their first Little East playoff championship and first NCAA tournament berth, in the process launching a run of 7 straight seasons of 10 or more wins that included 5 Little East playoff titles. In the 2007 Little East playoffs, the two-time LEC Defensive Player of the Year and 3-time All-LEC goalkeeper did not allow a goal in 200 minutes. In the championship game, after shutting out defending champion Keene State over 110 minutes, the All-New England senior then turned away 2 penalty kicks on the way to tournament MVP honors. In 66 career matches, Jay posted 23 full shutouts, a share of 6 more, a 0.84 goals against average, and an .859 save percentage. He capped his Hall of Fame career with 555 consecutive shutout minutes over the final 7 starts of his career.
Good evening. My name is Greg DeVito, and it is my pleasure to introduce Jay Barney as an inductee into the Eastern Hall of Fame Class of 2024. Jay has been and continues to be a huge part of Eastern soccer for the last 20 years. Jay was not only a tough, skilled, and smart athlete, he was also a gifted coach with us for many years and is an extremely dedicated alumnus. Jay came to Eastern at a time when the program was not in a great place, having experienced 5 consecutive losing seasons prior to his arrival in the fall of 2004. Out of high school, Jay had offers from a number of other schools, including those at the Division I level. But luckily for our program, he chose Eastern. Jay led a group of guys that turned the program around in a very short amount of time with a competitiveness and toughness second to none. Since Jay's arrival on campus, Eastern is in the midst of a 20-year period where the program has more wins, more championships, and more NCAA appearances than any other team in the conference. He instilled his will to win on his teammates and clearly accepted nothing less than their full attention and effort on the field. I mentioned earlier that Jay held his teammates to an extremely high standard, something that in my opinion was very important to this team's success. Anything less, and they were sure to hear about it. In fact, legend has it that neighbors within a mile radius of Nevers Field could also clearly hear Jay holding his teammates accountable. Now here's a guy that did individual training with some dude named Gorilla, and that after injuring himself with a foosball table handle and badly bruising important male body parts, played multiple games down the stretch with an ice pack in his shorts. I thought to myself, his tone is fine, just the way it is. He clearly possessed a toughness that was difficult to match. His teammates had a visible confidence because of Jay's knowledge of the game and technical ability to play with his feet. They knew that he would make plays that opponents' keepers could never make, and that he always had their backs. His infamous move of looking and pointing in one direction and then passing the ball in the other direction fooled many players, making them look clueless. It would almost work every time. Jay often mentioned that he could have been a great forward. So when the game went into penalty kicks against Keene State in the LEC playoff title game in 2007, Jay stepped up to take the first penalty kick in the shootout. There was no chance that he wouldn't score. But surprisingly, he missed. Most players in that moment would have been shattered and carried the miss on through the rest of the shootout. but not our Jonathan Lyman Barney. As the goalie, he went on to make multiple saves, and his teammates did what they needed to do, converting more penalties than Keene, and ultimately creating a field-storming scene at Nevers that has never been equaled. Jay collected a lot of individual awards, including the program's first All-Region selection in many years, but it was the way that he led himself and his teammates to places the program had never been that stands out most. Jay, I can't say enough about your contributions to Eastern soccer and the amount of respect I have for you as a player, coach, and person. Thank you for all that you have done and continue to do.
When I heard he was going to the Hall of Fame, it was a no-brainer for me. He perfectly represents everything that Eastern men's soccer is, on the field, off the field, which is shown by his dedication to the program for over a decade.
I think Jay's physical size is something that completely pushed him to be the goalie he ended up being in college. In high school, when collegiate coaches are looking for goalies, they're looking for people who are 6'3" and above, right? Jay being 5'9", 5'10". I think coaches looked at that as a huge downside because you can't teach height. What they didn't then see and didn't give themselves a chance to see was all the other intangibles that Jay brought. Much quicker first step, reaction time, way quicker than that of someone who's 6'3" or above. Super impressive hands, knew the game, very talented with the ball in his foot. I think there was a lot there, and we know his height was the one thing that held him back from getting the big-time Division I looks.
And Jay's soccer IQ was so high, it was an endless pit of knowledge for me to learn from.
I think Jay just had that hunger, right? Like when a person stepped up to the PK line, it's him versus Jay, and Jay wasn't going to lose. And you have to kind of have that to be successful in the college level, at least as successful as Jay was.
He has that competitive nature where he just wants to win, so he was constantly trying to help us as younger players, and myself included, to just get the best version of ourselves so we can be and be the best competitor. I was fortunate enough to start playing with him after graduation, and his competitive nature, he just wanted to win, and he wanted to perform and execute whatever he needed to execute in a given game. And to have that when you're playing out of college in a men's league, whatever it is, I couldn't imagine what it was like for the guys who had to play with him in a competitive atmosphere in college.
That's where Jay was more than a coach to me. That's life skills. You're learning how to work hard. You're learning how hard work pays off in the long run. And it sounds simple, and it is simple. But things like that are life skills that I learned there, that I can remember there, that carry with me today.
Communication between Jay and myself as the goalie and the center back, communication was vital. To have a goalie directly behind you as your last line of defense that you completely trusted and knew that they were going to, handle any responsibility sent their way was huge.
He was an awesome bridge between us as young players and the coaching staff. He immediately took on a mentorship role, helping us with anything we needed on off the field. He was, for me personally, my go-to guy to reach out to for advice.
Jay was the older brother that I never had. He was the older brother that everybody needs. He'd push you beyond your limits, but he did it in a way where he didn't really have to push you. He made you believe you could be the best, and then you wanted to do it. You wanted to continue working hard. There was no way you were going to let him down.
When we got into penalty kicks, we knew we were going to win. Not because we were better penalty kick takers, but we had Jay in goal. They had a very good goalie as well. Didn't matter. He was not on the level that Jay was. Jay made 3 saves, which is, again, unheard of.
2009, we're in the LEC championship game. At home, at Eastern, we win 1-0. How I remember it is one of the first hugs, if not the first hug after the whistle blew, was Jay. I was in goal on the far side of the field, so opposite side from our bench. So for him to make that trek across the field, I think that's what I remember, and that speaks volumes to that relationship I think that we built, and he was the best. He was the best. One of my favorite memories, it started one night, this one night practice, I got chipped and scored on. I was embarrassed, humiliated. It's not a good way to get scored on. And in the following weeks, we spent every session had something to do with making that save. We spent hours, days, weeks refining that skill. And then one night at the end of the season, I believe it was the LEC semifinals, under the lights, the moment comes, the ball gets chipped, and I'm able to get back and make this save. And for me, I know it's a great save, but then you just hear Jay screaming, and he's running down the sideline, hands in the air, screaming from the other side of the field. And for me, right, that's a wonderful feeling to know that, hey, I didn't let him down.
At this time, it gives me great pleasure to present as a 2024 inductee into the Eastern Connecticut State University Athletics Alumni Hall of Fame, Jonathan L. J. Barney.